and welcome to an episode of Katie's Corporate Classroom, where I am your Chief Solutions Officer. That is SOUL in the solutions there, bringing you the soul that you're missing in all of the leadership. I'm starting to launch leadership coaching with a free wellness retreat included for this year. Next year, that wellness retreat will cost money. I think the major component missing to all of the leadership programs that I have either facilitated because I've been a part of it, I've heard feedback from clients. What is missing is, well, having things that aren't in silos. And I have had 4 careers. And if you take a look at my LinkedIn, you'll see lots of different backgrounds, certifications, et cetera. I mean, Olympic lifting is one of them. I'm really bringing that gym qualification here. Work is already siloed. We can't have leadership development programs that are also siloed. So, why I'm bringing this is to answer what everybody wants. The soul, your soul has a purpose. Your soul on fire is what changes the world. There's a quote that's a little more succinct or less succinct than that, but it's more eloquent than that. But we know that a soul on fire is what moves the world. Whether we like the soul's on fire's intention or we don't like that soul's on fire intention, whether you think that soul will eventually burn on fire, none of that matters. It's the soul part. And what I know for it to be true for my clients is that they don't always imagine what it's like to be a soul in a human body that doesn't have imposter syndrome, that isn't hard on themselves, that doesn't push themselves. Somehow that inner voice that isn't actually your soul, it's what you're not, becomes so important because you've had it for so long. And today I was inspired to make this video because I had a client that shared as she reflected on her first session notes. She goes, "Oh, I forgot that imposter syndrome was something I wanted to get rid of." Of course, she forgot it behind her. And as someone that has a degree in history, what we need to know is that people repeat themselves. And so when we know something is in the past, it doesn't have to affect how we feel today. It's information, but it is not something that it's just based on interpretation. And so how she interprets that imposter syndrome voice is, oh yeah, it's really not around. And that inner confidence that's shining, everybody around her is giving her this feedback, not just her coworkers, family, seeing people over the holiday, you get to interact with more people. There's a glow. That's a soul glow. That's a soul on fire and feeling back to their natural selves. It's rare to have a person think back to being 2 years old and saying, I'm not good enough. Maybe 1 years old, maybe before they had language. We don't imagine ourselves at that time, taking the square block and trying to put it into the triangle hole and saying to ourselves, I'm so stupid. I don't know how to do this. Like we imagine that voice would be encouraging itself. And you can see frustration when it happens for kids. And we do develop a frustration for not remembering. And if we remember that we're a soul, it helps with finding more curiosity here, assuming less, and truly taking nothing personally. That has been a huge evolution for myself and for my clients. In fact, every career I've had reflects an evolution for myself. It reflects a place in my life where I've developed an authority around. And my job isn't to give you my authority, but it's to spark yours internally. That's the soul part. That is why I also will have clients that will say, including the one I just described before, her first few sessions, she wasn't so sure that I was going to be a good fit for her. And I have heard that feedback before. And what I know to be true is that if they make it through 3 sessions, there's fear that there's almost this unconscious knowing. We write stories about what those reasons are, so each of these people would probably have a different story of why that may not vibe. I'm different from them is what they would say. This particular client, she's not. I do have in my human design, I talk about I have this aura that sometimes people will project what they want to see, which explains why I've always worn costumes. to come on and talk about a corporate classroom and a hooded sweatshirt did not feel authentic for me in the past. And yet that is authentic for me. And there is an unconscious fear that I will change. We do want the familiar, we want the status quo. And my partner said something to me this today, like, I don't want the status quo. I'm here to not have the status quo. And I thought, oh, that's so interesting. If we all said yes and to yes, the status quo has to change. And we disagree sometimes on how to change it. Not sometimes. We are seeing that if you're in the United States listening to this. And if you're watching it from other places, I'd love to know your thoughts. But enough about, leave them in the comments if you wish. So, offering a leadership program that is based on your soul's time of birth, location, and date allows us to really co-create. You're going to say, yes, that lands. No, that doesn't land. I keep saying over 500 charts, and at this point, it's got to be at least 600 or 700 charts. What I know to be true is that it does land, and it lands in a way that is designed from gene keys. They're called keys for a reason. There's locks. It's designed to elevate the vibration of your very DNA. 64 strands of DNA, there's 64 traits in the I Ching, and that's what we're pulling from. In addition to the tree of life, the Kabbalah, and then we used to call it astronomy, but now they've parceled out astronomy and astrology. So we're using the astrological signs and the time frames that they move. And what's so interesting about planets is we tend to think they just do this because that's what we're taught, but they don't. There's sacred geometry in their movement. And understanding sacred geometry, which was Pythagoras, or you could look at the Chaldeans. There's a few other groups that also had their own sacred geometry, and the way they looked at numerology is what we call that today. When you study, as a historian, I like to study all the systems. And what you understand is that there are patterns, and it becomes easier to recognize them and to become more in harmony with them. We talk so much about work-life balance. I talk about work-play balance because it's a very human thing. But what we're really looking for is harmony. As a certified heart math, activating the heart of teams trainer, part of the harmony that I bring is shifting and lifting your own inner vibration, that magnetic field that we measure around you. We can measure it up to 3 feet. And in your chart, we can actually see what's the flavor of that. If you want any proof that these charts are accurate, you can just look at mine. Mine actually is leadership. Had no idea. And that makes sense why I've also, it's a quality 3 trait, and a quality 3 trait is a trial and error process. So you can look at times where I've really shined as a leader. You can look at times where other people would say I've been shit as a leader. And what you'll see is a common thread of provoking abundance and leaving things better than when I started and when I left. And I know that I'm designed to thrive in partnership, which is something important for you to know, is how are you designed to make your money? And then how are you designed to use it? When I read in my chart that I'm a 6-line money, 6 lines are always guides. They're sages. They're looking towards the future. And what is the future? Which is why I love the barter system, which is the past, but felt good for the future. But understanding that how I'm designed to make money and then also what I'm supposed to do with it, when I read that I'm best served penniless, I laughed and thought, oh yeah, that's why I never really worry about it. I never think about it. Until that time I did. And a lot of my leadership is really just a journey. And the more experiences that you have, the better leader that you are. The number one thing I hear around how do I get better at executive presence is I need more practice. I need to get in front of these people. And I also invite you to also get more practice just being authentic no matter where you are. And authentic could mean that I might dress a little bit differently because I do have a closet full of, I call them costumes, you guys call them clothes. But the vibrational feeling when you interact with me is going to be consistent. And that's an area that I really got to elevate and grow in 2019, 2020. I'm so grateful for every terrible and good leadership experience I've had. It makes me more aware of how to help support others. It also helps me when I read books to be like, this is shit, this actually works. As because I see it in all the clients. I served 280 clients in corporate last year alone. just in the corporate setting specifically, not the small, doesn't count the small business and some of these other, which I also dabble in because I owned a CrossFit gym before. I own a business now, Outstanding Women Leaders. If you're on the podcast, you know, and alprofessionalcoaching.com. So, creating a leadership program that combines all these elements that you'll see high school history teacher for the first 7 years. So, really understanding how you make things engaging, how do you give enough theory, but not too much. We need less, just a little bit of theory, and then go and practice. And where the magic happens is when you come back and we unpack that. I am designed for inspiration giving. And if you've ever gotten to work with me, you know this is true. I have a very unique way of looking at things. I've had people that did not appreciate that unique way, hence the partnership. If the partnership is right for me, it stays. If it's not, it dissolves over naturally over time. Whether or not it feels good is dependent upon me and my harmony and vibration, which is again why I want to bring more of the wellness, not the wellness of I got a massage and I learned I did these things, but the wellness that has practices that become customs. Habits have to be reinforced. Customs is who you be. I love to be barefoot. It is a custom that I have always taken off shoes when I walk in the house. It's not a habit. My mom very rarely had to say, go take off your shoes. It was just what I did. And for people that don't do that, real weird to me. We want to develop customs that you use to connect with nature, which we know from a scientific place, so soul and science, hence the solutions. We know that this is how we relieve stress. We know that physically walking, we not just relieve it, but then bring us back to homeostasis, bring us more into harmony, bringing more of the curiosity on what are the birds I'm hearing? What are the leaves looking like as they fall? We don't take time to even watch the leaves fall. When I was a kid, the twirly birds would always fall, and I would make mud tacos. I was making tacos before tacos were a thing. I must have had another life where I was doing something with tacos. Loved a good taco from a very young age. When you think about some of the activities that you did as a kid in nature, we know that kids today are missing out on those activities. And so this also means that these customs become family customs. What I know to be true from owning a CrossFit gym that also partnered with the Special Olympics and had CrossFit Kids and a strength and mobility program for adaptive athletes and people that were aging is that when we do things in that full community, they become custom. You don't go to the gym because you love it and it's a great habit that you've turned into a custom. You go there for the community. And when you create a custom of walking in nature, when you create a custom, I'm getting my forest bathing certification. That nature one is a big one for me right now. Barefoot walking to ground yourself, soaking up the moonlight to help you and the kids sleep. When you understand that if your kid is a generator, which 70% of the population is, and manifesting generator kids need a little bit more at night to get them tired and ready to sleep, it's the mental stimulation and the physical stimulation that comes there as well. You can start to make customs that flow with your energy, flow with your soul. And if we're going to blame our parents, we got to at least start with the day they were born. So we look at, okay, day we were born, what is the energy that was flowing? You might think to yourself, this energy wasn't honored, or this energy didn't show up right, or this is why this happened. But what you're really seeing is, hey, here's your user manual. Your parents didn't have that. If you have children, we're going to go through in the wellness retreat so that we're getting the entire picture of your life. And if you're not a parent, we're going to talk about what it looks like to reinvent and spend some time also holistically at the wellness retreat. If you are in corporate, what is your retreat from corporate strategy? From a long term, like, yes, I'm in a secession plan and leave, but also a retreat for like, what is your every year? How do you retreat away? I call it going to the mountain to gain that perspective. And retreat away looks like a solo journey. Part of the solution I bring is gene keys, back to the key unlocking it and coming into the genes and creating this harmony. We will have more of the breathing exercises and techniques that you can take away with you, but also we'll have the gene key journey that's on contemplation. You can contemplate anytime. I come into the grocery store and I now know this about myself. I'm going to choose the line that is going to have the lady with writing the check. It's going to have a price check. It's going to have it's going to be slow. And so now I have a different way. I use that time to contemplate. I actually embrace, oh, this line looks a little, this one will probably not move as fast. I'll go ahead and grab it. I don't even care. I want to contemplate on this particular gene key. And if you listen to my Soaring into 2025 episode, I talk about the gene key 42.5 in my emotional intelligence. So we look at your emotional intelligence at this retreat and also in the coaching program. And program is not the right word because we're not programming you. It's more of a um, self-discovery in a way that's different than you've had before. For example, sometimes too much self-awareness means we're only aware of self. And we actually need to have more of this view. It starts to uncover some blind spots for you. And as I contemplated 42.5, my emotional intelligence, the shadow of expectation, Great Expectations was a book I read as a kid. And so now that tracks on why I was reading about Great Expectations. I have had some great ones over the years. Mostly, I always expect things to work out, and that is a great expectation. And the contemplation has helped me learn how to celebrate. Not getting what I want would probably be a great way to put it, but to really celebrate loss. Had a lot of tragedies in family, and we tend to think of this person was saved, like they almost died, versus looking at this person got to continue their mission longer. It must be important because we're not saving them from anything. We're celebrating them at a frequency that we can't see and interact with, but is enough evidence that others can. The telepathy tapes is a big one right now out there. Understanding that we celebrate what's the endings. There's a lot of things that are ending right now that are difficult to celebrate. We don't watch our house burn down and celebrate the end of what was there, but we can be grateful. And that gratitude is a shift in attitude. It's a shift in how you approach things. And learning for me to celebrate holding a detached view. And anytime something burns down, more metaphorically or physically, it lets you know that you were attached to something. It's a place for opportunity to grow. We get very attached to a lifespan that we think people should live, and yet we're still sad when they die at 105. And so learning to celebrate was a lot of the things I was contemplating. And so there is different gene keys that if that speaks to you, that gene key either shows up in your chart or it doesn't, and it's a place that's really distracting you. I don't have the other half of that energy. My partner does. And so I'm not really great at starting new beginnings properly because they do require you to end cycles. And this is why I'm designed for partnership. I get to learn that from others. And so Katie's Corporate Classroom membership will have a monthly meeting so that you have a chance to actually interact with others, ask me questions directly. The rest of the episodes will be podcasts. I'll be pushing them out each week. You'll be able to tune in. I have different types of corporate classrooms. I have corporate classroom on gene keys. I have corporate classroom on human design, a corporate classroom on parenting, neurodiversity, different. So you kind of get the idea. Entrepreneurship, if you want to exit your corporate classroom, confidence, getting rid of the imposter syndrome. You don't have to have that voice. We aren't taming it. We're loving it to death. It's great. You ever love your lovey to death? You know, the little stuffed animals, I think, as a kid, or a blanket that you just wore out because you loved it so much. That's what we're going to do with your fun imposter. So if you're looking to join that community, I have an amazing offer. You can click the link and check it out this year. I have a yearly membership. It's $299, $299 for the entire year. And you'll get to come to Katie's classroom starting in March. I am excited to answer your questions or connect with you. So, you have questions about the one-to-one coaching program and the wellness retreat, which is also a fabulous price at $3,600 for a 6-month coaching program, a fall retreat. If fall doesn't work for you, we can also talk about where that might fall for you, pun intended there. And it'll be on the retreat. You're responsible for your own lodging and travel, but I will pick you up from wherever that lodging is and take you back there. And you'll be on the Owl Retreat Center. having no more than 6 people. So 6 total people will be in your retreat. Once I have all of the applications in for that, I'll have an idea of based on your charts and based on what kind of retreat you're looking for specific, because I'll be leaning into different practitioners for some of the different retreats. For example, if you're really into the human design and the gene keys, there'll be certain retreats you'll want to sign up for that'll be much heavier based in that. If you're a parent versus a non-parent, there'll be one that would be inclusive of that as well. And your meals during the retreat times will also be covered on site. And so you'll also fill out any of the allergies, etc., that you'll have as well. There will also be fitness available because I did own that CrossFit gym, but fitness looks a little bit different now. We'll talk about mental fitness and what that looks like to have good thought hygiene. We tend to think our thoughts happen to us, and so we need to take some showers in those heads and clean up what we're saying. We need to say, I love you. We don't need to say, you could do this better. You should do this better. Ooh, are you doing a good job? What if you don't do a good job? We're going to work on the thought hygiene, but we also have some exercise as well for no matter where you're at. So there'll be some questions in the application as well about physical activity and what you prefer and what that looks like. And of course, forest bathing. As I mentioned, I'm getting that certification. Lots and lots and lots and lots of nature. If you have an allergy to dogs, this one will not work for you. I do have a German Shepherd that does not jump, that does not really do anything but be incredibly sweet and sniff. And he has furs everywhere. So if you do have an issue and that prevents you from coming, we can always talk about doing a different type of retreat for you, some perhaps on site where you would stay. So thank you so much for tuning in to the full 52 minutes today. If you made it, thank you so much. If you're still here, you can also text me and say, Katie, I stayed to the very end of that and I want that discount that you mentioned. So shoot me a text. My number is on my website. So you can grab it from there and say, hey, Katie, put your name in there. You can mention it also when you fill out your application, but we will get you that discount if you've made it all the